Hello, everybody. Welcome to Simon on the sofa, or as you can see, Simon on the kitchen chair. Though, do not be too attached to the sofa. I was actually going to sit on the sofa this evening, and the light wasn't as good because I'm using obviously artificial light this evening, and this light is a lot better. So I'd rather you see me than actually be on a sofa. Thank you for tuning in live. We've got some live viewers, which is always great on these Hangouts. It's good to interact. And for you guys to be with us gives us a sense that we have a little bit of an audience. And to everybody coming to the replay, welcome. If you don't know what Simon on the Sofa is, or this is the first time, then Simon on the Sofa is an exploration of my own and has been for the last 6 years or more, where I went on a quest of truth and love, you could say, and I needed to have these authentic conversations with people to inquire into life and what was happening to me and who I was and where I was going and so on. And I'm still on it, so I'm sure I'm going to be on it till I actually leave this body. So this evening or the morning, whenever you're tuning in, I'm with a wonderful, wonderful man and somebody I met a few years ago in London, and his name is Todd. And I always say your second name wrong, but Todd, do you want to say hello?
Hello, yeah. You pronounce it Acamesis, and it's pretty much as it reads. So, yeah, but yeah, this has been a long time coming. We've talked about doing a Simon on the Sofa chat for a while, and it's nice we've finally been able to manage it. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. And you know, we really wanted to do one in the in person. We was going to have lunch, and I was going to come to your flat, and you know, it just didn't happen because you were here and I was there, etc., etc. So I think you know, there's you wrote a lovely post today on the wall about like what you was going to reveal and share, and I think like I always show up with these very much, as you know, Todd, just show up where I am. I've not got any set questions for you. Obviously, I really want you to share with the sofa audience and anybody else that finds it, you know, what you shared today about your latest findings in out-of-body experiences and exploring other dimensions. And also the question that was coming to mind when I was just prior to us speaking was, this was what was on my mind, was I was asking myself, like, let me tune into my feeling. Like, what am I feeling? So I've got the opportunity to speak with Todd. We're alive on a planet. It's 2014. So much information coming our way, and it's like, what can you and I bring of value and benefit to the audience, you know, at this time? And also, what have you got to share, or what can you know, begin the conversation with that somebody necessarily hasn't heard before? So, you know, like you do a lot of talks and people meet you and so on. I sort of want to, in this moment, you know, potentially capture something that nobody's ever heard you express before or share. And I think if we start from that place, we just, you know, we go with the flow.
Sure. Okay. All right. That's put me on the spot. Okay. I am a secret government military out-of-body explorer working for the United States military. Simon, we know all about you. We know about your secret agendas with these global love letters. We're on to you, brother. So there you go.
Damn. I knew there was more to you than met the eye.
Yes, well, you spotted that in a talk a couple years ago. You pointed me out as being an alien, but I'm very much human. So.
Yeah, I said. Yeah.
Like alien hair to you, this is very human hair. Look at that, not alien anything about it. So.
I remember that very well. Yeah, I was always touched by you coming along because I know you're a busy man, and I said potentially you were shape shifting from multiple dimensions to be here tonight.
Potentially. Okay. I think the theme that comes up for me a lot, I mean, this isn't going to be ground-shaking new by any means, but perhaps just the way that I sort of express, you know, how my take on reality might just sort of, I don't know, maybe help a few people put a couple of their puzzle pieces into better position. I think I like to explore reality from a position where I'll tell you what, actually, I get a lot of people. I'm open to, any belief systems. I really am. And I have people come to me sometimes, whether they send an email to me or they ask in a talk in person, or they'll respond to a Facebook post. And it's usually, because the out-of-body exploration stuff, that's one of my favorite areas. That's what I like to, one of my primary tools for exploring reality. And I get sometimes people will say things like, why do people want to have out-of-body experiences? Surely we should want to focus here, in our bodies. We need more people having in-body experiences because, we've got so many people so unfocused and so, out of their bodies and so out of their heads that, we need people more to be here in their body. And I kind of get this impression that people think explorers like me, we just lie around on the sofa all day long and we're just out of our bodies, which just isn't the case. I love being in the here and now, and I really think that the more I wake up here on this physical level, the more I automatically start waking up, to the bigger spectrum of energy of who and what I really am beyond this physical body, because I'm not exclusively a physical body. I'm not exclusively my human thoughts. I'm not exclusively my feelings and the behaviors that stem from all of that stuff. And I think, for me, I like to explore this stuff at nighttime. I like to explore it when everybody else goes to sleep. Instead of falling unconscious into sleep, I'm able to trigger, sort of let my physical body fall asleep, but I get to sort of stay awake as I transition into other realities. It's like the Buddhists do and what they call, when they transition into clear light. But this is just a Western perspective. To me, it's an out-of-body experience, and I get to go and enjoy reality on other levels and go to great sort of astral cities and experiment and explore and talk to people on those levels and gain great insights, have experiences, and bring the experience, the energy of it back here. I get to sort of, if you like, the application side of it is huge. But yes, when I'm here in physical reality, I'm wide awake. I'm not lying around on my sofa during the daytime. I'm awake. I'm trying to be as, well, not even trying. It's about, being as present as possible, because the more present I am, I get to hear all the nuances when I'm in conversation with people, instead of when, if somebody's angry at me and they're saying, oh, Todd, I really hate it when you behave this way, and it makes me feel this way, and, X, Y, Z. And if I'm really present and I'm not getting triggered and I'm therefore in my own head and now I'm experiencing my hurt feelings, if I'm really present, allow myself to really hear what they're saying, I get to hear the deeper truth underneath, their anger and their blame. And that truth is usually, I don't feel safe. I don't feel important. I don't feel that I matter. And that's what people are really saying, stuff like that. And so they're sort of not giving you all their trust, because usually, we're so much in our own head, we're so much in our own story, that we're not really listening to people. And this is one of the things that I like to promote with the out-of-body teachings. When people come to my workshops or talks, they think they're coming to hear about how to have an out-of-body experience, when ultimately they're going to hear how to have an in-body experience. Because if they can't have an in-body experience, what is the point of them going on other levels of reality just so they're not sort of focusing on those levels? They're not really paying attention on those levels, and they're angering people on those levels. So it's just like, no, wake up here first. Have an in-body experience. Be fully present on this level of reality, and then you can go to other levels and be fully present. And that way you're not just making a contribution during your waking hours here by being present. When you're then going and having an out-of-body experience and projecting, onto the astral planes, you get to be present there, and you get to make a contribution there too. So to me, the things I like to teach when it comes to the out-of-body state is to really help people understand, be present here on this level. Have your daytime practice. If you want to have an out-of-body experience, you've got to practice here. You've got to practice being conscious. You've got to practice being focused. You've got to practice being really present with people, because then you get to hear them for the first time. You actually get to hear them instead of just getting triggered by the things they're saying, and you can actually start making a difference, a real serious contribution.
Wonderful, yeah. So it's got the almost like the full integration of the human experience by giving it that other aspect of the out of body. Do you want to break down, like, for people that have never really even understood what an out of body experience is? Because there's people that it's just another dream state, and I know you do lucid dreaming as well. But do you want to just based on what you shared, just like, do you want to go into a little bit of what, and again, from your experience, I know you're happy to share that, so just from your experience, because I know that I've watched some of your videos, and you actually, you know, they made me laugh, some of them, because you said there was, the one I watched was, you said that you kept coming across this character that was following you, and you was then following it, and it was coming back into your apartment, and then one time you didn't know if it was there or not, and then you went on this journey to follow this character. Do you remember that? You probably remember that.
I do, yes.
Yeah,
I do.
may have remembered that story. But you know, that was always quite interesting for me, because I'm not I very rarely remember my dreams. I know I go off on these crazy, quite epic journeys, as I'm sure everybody does. And you know, the dream world in itself is still, I almost liken it like the sea. You know, it's like we know a little small, you know, a small percentage of it, but there's this vast ocean of exploration, pretty much like life in general. But I know that the dream world holds a lot of wisdom, insight, and so on. So do you want to go into that a little?
Absolutely, yes. I actually I like to teach first and foremost from, you know, the dream states. I like that be like the first port of call, if you like, because this is something that we all have. We all have dreams every single night, and this isn't something where people have to come and hang up their belief systems like they hang up their coat when they enter the workshop. You know, we all dream, so we all share that sort of fundamental basis. So the idea is to first help people understand how to start recalling more dreams on a daily basis. So I teach people how to start living a very lucid waking life, so they start asking questions. So typically people walk from A to B and they get in a very zombie sort of state. It's like they're sleepwalking on this level of reality. We're so much in our heads. We go home from work, we leave work and we get home, and by the time we get home, we haven't really taken a look at the scenery. We haven't really had a proper engagement with the environment, because we're constantly in our heads. And that, to me, that's not being lucid. And so again, it's about teaching people first. Their homework is to learn how to sort of walk down the street, to be in their everyday environment and connect with it. You know, literally, again, have an in-body experience. So if this is a dream world, if this level of reality, our waking life, is actually an extension of a bigger dream, and this is a shared dream, then we want to learn to become the lucid dreamer on this level of reality. And that, to me, is, you know, you start to sort of, once you show up here, once you fully show up on this level, you increase the quality of every single experience that you have. When you are communicating with people, you give them your full attention, and they trust you more because they really feel your presence, they really feel you're listening, and they want to naturally trust you more. If I'm sort of having a conversation with somebody and I'm not giving them my full presence, I keep looking at my watch, or I pick up my mobile phone and I'm looking at my text messages while they talk, I'm not hearing everything they're saying, certainly not hearing the deeper truth. So it's the same with the dream stuff that I teach, or the out-of-body stuff. What is the point of having those experiences if you're only going to sort of mirror what you do in physical reality within the dream state or within the out-of-body state? To me, I'm not really. It doesn't matter to me whether I'm experiencing, you know, my waking reality, a lucid dream, or an out-of-body experience. What really matters to me, you know, is not the state of mind, but is my level of focus within that reality I'm experiencing, my presence. You know, where am I? Am I actually there, or I am off, you know, sort of in a daydream somewhere? Because to me, an out-of-body experience, a lucid dream, it's the same thing. If I'm giving that my full presence, I get more from it. And I get to experience this full spectrum of who I am. I don't get just to experience the here and now of physical reality, but I get to experience the eternal now, you know, everything. You know, you can get so practiced with this stuff. I could literally sit here with you, have a full-on conversation, and if I get practice enough, I can learn how to trigger a waking dream state, or, you know, like a lucid dream, or an out-of-body experience, and I can be on another level of reality, another state of mind, and have this simultaneous experience, one with you, one somewhere else. You'd never even know that I was doing this, and there wouldn't be a break in my focus with you, because, you know, you get practiced enough, you can literally open up multiple sort of reality, you know, screens in your mind at the same time, and you can have a full communication. It's like if you were to split this screen in half right now, and I'm experiencing you having a communication with me, but yet I'm in another level of reality. You know, this stuff gets really powerful, and I don't lose anything. You know, the conscious mind from this level of reality, we process about 4 bits of information per second. That's not very much. We've given a lot of, you know, sort of control over to the subconscious mind, which can process millions of bits of information per second. And then we have this bigger level of our consciousness, you know, the super state of consciousness. People call it the soul or the higher self. You know, we all have different labels for it. Can you imagine the processing speed of that level of our consciousness if we're able to sort of open up these channels, whether you call it channeling or remote viewing or out-of-body exploration or meditation? All we're doing is we're using different methodology to access the bigger consciousness. And that bigger consciousness, the energy of that is always here with us. The difference is we've got so much noise in our head. I'm not good enough, you know, surely to have an out-of-body experience, you know, it takes a lot of practice. It's very hard. It's a lot of hard work. Paying attention in my life. I don't want to pay attention. I feel so uncomfortable. I want to be in my head all the time, because if I'm out of my head and I'm literally facing reality, I might be looking in a mirror. If I'm looking in a mirror, I might not like what I see. So I understand why people are in their heads all the time, because they don't have better coping mechanisms. You know, we've been sort of trained from birth, you know, not how to really deal with this stuff. So we don't deal with this stuff, you know. So to me, ultimately, these techniques, they're just, for me, they're ways to sort of better cope with, you know, reality and be able to connect with it and no longer hide from who and what we really are. You know, yes, it's not a waking state. You know, these are different states of mind. Some people would argue and say they're completely different states, but, you know, that doesn't really matter. What matters to me is, are you awake within one of those states? You know, if it's like a typical dream, most people are totally unconscious. They're almost along for the ride. They're vicarious. They're just an observer at best. And then they wake up and they're like, oh, that was a pleasant dream, or that was horrible. I didn't like that. If they were awake within the experience, they get to do more. They get to interact. They actually get to ask questions. They actually get to solve problems. They get to communicate with a deeper level of their consciousness. If they're oblivious in sleep during a dream, they don't get anything from it. And it's the same with waking life. You know, are you awake? Are you wandering around like a zombie, like, you know, like you're sleepwalking? It's like a waking sleep state. Or are you wide awake? Are you experiencing every nuance of reality? Therefore, you're picking up on, you know, the deeper truth of what people are trying to tell you. You know, when they're yelling at you and they're upset, you know, they're not really wanting to be stuck in their blame. They're not really wanting to be stuck in their anger. But again, if they don't feel they've got your attention, that's just sort of on a subconscious level, because the subconscious mind is able to process everything. That subconscious, in a way, is watching your body language, and it's sort of putting out the signals to the conscious mind. This person's not really paying attention. This person's not really listening. This person doesn't really care. This person doesn't think I matter. And it kicks off all those sub-personalities. You know, we all have multiple personality disorder. And we've got all these sub-personalities constantly getting angry because nobody's paying any attention to them. They're all being ignored constantly. And it's just like, why do I bother? You know, it's just, to me, it's fascinating. When you really understand this stuff more, and you really understand that 1 minute, when somebody's talking to you, you can see it. You become like the practical psychologist on a moment-by-moment basis. You know, they're talking to you, and they're very happy, and suddenly they switch into a state of depression or unhappiness in a moment. You know, literally they've gone into their head, something you can see, you're talking with them, and boom, they're gone. And it's really fascinating to be able to see this stuff and not then get triggered yourself. You know, be able to learn how to be so responsible. You can hold your own space, and when other people are being triggered, you know, they're uncomfortable about something, I don't then have to think, you know, one of my sub-personalities comes in and is like, wait a second, this person's being uncomfortable about something. Oh, God, I'm feeling uncomfortable now. And I start getting triggered, and then it starts, you know, going back and forth, and we're both in our heads, and nobody's getting the best of the interaction. It's great to be able to stay grounded, and this is one of the things I love about out-of-body experiences and lucid dreaming. I actually get to be more grounded here when I wake up in this level of reality, because I'm learning, you know, so much more about who and what I really am. I'm not just my hurt feelings. I'm not just, you know, these belief systems, these human belief systems. We're not, you know, just, you know, all the blame and all this stuff, you know, the sadness and being unhealthy. That's part of who we are. That's part of our human conscious spectrum of energy, if you like. But what about the love? What about the, you know, the compassion? What about the kindness and being grateful? We're all those things too. but a lot of the times we're giving too much intensity to the story, too much intensity to the hurt feelings, and forgetting that equally, and we're also love, we're also sort of compassion and all those things too. We're happy, we're healthy. What is it we're focused so much on in our head that we're actually experiencing in that moment? So to me, yeah, I'm going to give you a definition of what lucid dreaming is, what out-of-body exploration is, but what I really want to sort of come across here is that, to me, it doesn't really matter what state of mind we're experiencing. What matters is, are you awake or are you asleep thinking you're awake? That to me is what really matters more than what state of mind you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Are you awake while you're experiencing that, or are you thinking you're awake but you're sort of like sleepwalking?
Yeah, that's a great question for really where we are as individuals, and then also on the global scale, on a global story, So what I'm taking from you, because you just there's a lot there that you just shared, amazing, and thank you for breaking it down and sharing your passion and your enthusiasm always, which is something that I've always loved about you, and the way that you share your enthusiasm through your newsletters and your workshops and events, because I know that it's always really about fun and almost breaking. Yeah, it's always about fun, and you're always quirky with the way that you express, and you take people on field trips, and you do like sleepovers, and you have people like all hanging out, and and the pictures always look fun, and I know that's a huge contribution of yours, is that to just get people to, like you just said, wake up and enjoy the experience here, because it's not only multidimensional, but there's so much that we're missing of ourselves. There's so much that we, like you said, that those generic conditioned stories that everybody is just sleepwalkingly upholding day in and day out. I mean, I call it the invisible prison, or the hamster wheel of suppression, and it's like, you want to just, including myself here, speaking to everybody listening, it's like, I want to just, anybody just to kick me off of that hamster wheel whenever I get back on it, or slap me around the face and say, hey, get out of that invisible prison, or get out of that sleepwalk.
Exactly. You know what we need, Simon, to be able to do that on a regular basis? We need playmates. As children we had playmates. As adults, do we have a big enough list of playmates? This is why when I the playful stuff, you see, like, we'll do the synchronicity walks in London. We'll show up, maybe 20 people out of the group. We'll show up at a certain point somewhere in central London, 7 p.m. on a weeknight. We'll go out, we'll have dice, and we'll roll the dice, and the dice will direct us which way to go. We let go of all need to control. It's like we're the consciousness of water. We just flow with everything that is, and we don't resist anything. And we have a lot of fun, and it's really quite amazing. We've literally, in London, we've got 7 million unsuspecting playmates, and that's the best thing. So if you're sort of in that mindset of having fun, all you have to do is literally look to your left on a train, look to your right, look straight forward, and there's playmates all around you. It's just that grumpy adult aspect of their subconscious, one of those adult personalities, which is really grumpy. It doesn't want to be serious, but it's forced to be serious since it was given responsibility as a teenager. It didn't have any responsibility as a child, and then suddenly it's given full responsibility as a teenager and expected to cope. And it's just like, what's this? What do I got to do now? Now I've got to sort of earn my own living. I've got to go to university now. I've got to study even harder. I don't even get to take a break. What happened to my childhood? Where did that go? I used to love having fun. And no wonder that part of us got really grumpy and segmented and fragmented, and the other part of our consciousness, it just wants to have fun. So it's like, every time I'm doing something, I try to include these other parts of me, because to me, this is how we get this synergy within ourselves, because we got this inner sort of power struggle going on between all these multiple personalities. Literally, they all want to be included, but they all feel so ignored, and so no wonder they're all so miserable and upset and not giving us much energy to get on with our lives. The level of procrastination. I have a lot of clients on a sort of regular basis. I see people on Skype and in person, and I hear the same stories all the time. And literally, we're all experiencing the same sort of level of hurt and pain and suffering. And it's just like, look, you got these personalities going on inside you, and they literally want to be included. But we have all this procrastination. We've got big levels of procrastination going on in our lives, because all these different parts, none of them want to show up, because they look to the outside Simon, for example. They look at the here and now, conscious version of Simon, and they say, okay, Simon gets to pick what clothes we get to wear, Simon picks what food we eat, Simon all this, but they have influence on all that stuff in their own little ways. And you might pick up a book and you want to read this book, and suddenly you're feeling a bit of resistance, and suddenly you're feeling distracted, and it's one of these parts of you that's not feeling very comfortable with reading that book. For some reason, it might feel like, I don't want to give Simon my energy to add to the whole to read this book. So suddenly you get distracted. You start thinking about food. Okay, because this part of you is thinking, I'm going to distract Simon. I'm not comfortable reading this book. I don't get comfort from that. I get comfort from eating. So suddenly, here comes the distraction. You start thinking about food because this subpersonality is not on board whatsoever, because it's never asked its opinion whatsoever. It's always, these different power struggles going on, and one of them will eventually win out. So somebody gets to read a book. Which part of Simon gets to read a book? And it's just like, this other part, all it wants to do is like, no, I don't get comfort from that. I get comfort from eating food. And then suddenly that comes into your conscious mind, like, you know what, I'm suddenly hungry, and you've only read 3 pages of a book. So you're now in full-on procrastination mode because this other part of you has got a power struggle going on with you, and you don't even realize it. You just think you're indecisive, or you're literally, I'm so distracted all the time. No, literally all these different parts.
Yeah, but go into that though and break that down, because what you're saying is like you said, everyone's experiencing that, and I experienced that myself, and I know that the people that the same thing, the people I coach and work with on a one-to-one level all experience that same thing. So just break that down, because when you're saying, yeah, there's different parts of ourselves, and the procrastinator comes in, or the saboteur, or all these different multiple psychological beings within us. Yeah, go into that a little bit, and also what's your resolution to that as yourself, and also for what you found with working with your clients, and also maybe how even that links in with OBEs, or even connecting deeper to that that integrated self that you were speaking about earlier.
Okay, perfect. This is good stuff, Simon. I literally coached a couple over the weekend. They have a retreat center, and so they invited me to give them some coaching on lucid dreaming. And I'm teaching the lucid dream stuff, but the whole time we're talking about stuff like this. The whole time we're talking about the relationship. The whole time we're talking about what they're like with their children and their business. And I'm like, you know what? All of it's relevant. Every bit of it's relevant, because if they want to have a lucid dream, they literally have to learn how to live lucidly as well. And it's the same with understanding all these different parts, all these different aspects of their consciousness, which is literally creating this power struggle, which is sort of draining them of their energy to do anything. This is why we all procrastinate to the levels that we do, because we don't have the energy levels to get on with this stuff, because we've got this battle going on between all these different parts. So, for example, I had a client just a couple weeks ago, and she was very depressed. So she shows up online with me, very depressed, and she literally wakes up in the morning, and for the first 5 minutes, she's not in her story. So she wakes up totally blissed out in happiness, and she's listening to the bird song, and then suddenly the first voice comes in. It's like, open mic night, suddenly with all your multiple personalities in no particular disorder. One of them suddenly comes forward, and it's just like, hey, remember, I'm here in the background. And what's happened is she's gone to bed the night before without getting any sort of closure, any completion on some of the stuff she was thinking about the day before. And we do this literally for a lifetime. The current research suggests that 96% of our day is being driven unconsciously. So literally we have low-quality thoughts, low-quality feelings. We start having thoughts about our feeling state. So we might wake up in the morning feeling in a certain way straight away. And because we've made an association already in the past that when I feel this way, I have these sort of thoughts. So all of it becomes very unconscious. We start having unconscious thoughts about our feelings. We then start having the transient feelings, the emotions, that then start triggering low-quality behavior. We might get up and we start thinking in a certain way, and we're feeling miserable, and we're literally lowering our vibrational sort of energy, and we're lowering our mood. And we might get in the shower and we start thinking about our day. Oh, I got to go to work, and we're now starting to have conversations with people, colleagues at work that we're having conflict with, and those colleagues aren't even there in the shower with us. We're literally thinking about how this person makes me feel when I get to work. They always do this and they bully me, and it's just like, wait a second. it's like you know, healing. Sometimes in healing circles, you'll hear people say, before we can heal somebody, we have to get their permission. Makes me laugh all the time because I'm thinking about the bigger consciousness, thinking, oh, this is great. What did they just say? Before they can give their love, they've got to get somebody's permission. It's like, no wonder the world's in the state it is. Nobody's, you know, they're all thinking, can I get your permission before I love you? Can I do that? It's just like, do I ever get somebody's permission before I think bad of them, before I think negative thoughts about them? It's just like, you know, I call up my friend, say, look, think negatively of you right now, and I just thought I'd call to get your permission. Is that okay? Can I do that? Like, what the hell is that? You know?
Yeah, but it's funny. Keep going with this because it's funny, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's like all these crazy rules and stories that, you know, it's all made up. You know, it's like it's all made up, and then it sounds good, and to whatever circle it sounds good, and then that becomes a belief system, and then ultimately we're just among so many belief systems, concepts, theories, and ideas. We're just like, what? You know, what is actually going on? But carry on. I love this.
Okay. So to me, I mean, we have to learn to catch this stuff. So if I'm in the shower and I'm already having a full-on conversation in my head with a colleague at work, you know, and that colleague is not there, what am I doing? I'm building the energy that's going to go before me. So like even my behavior, behaviorally, sort of my body language. So I show up at work and I'm already looking tense. I'm already looking like I'm ready for a fight. And so of course when I walk through the door, the person I'm having conflict with, as soon as they see me, they think, uh-oh, here it goes, it's about to kick off, because they can already feel the mood. They can already feel the energy that's been set in motion before I've even arrived to work, because I've been in my head all morning sort of focused on this person and thinking the conflict that I've got with them, instead of maybe thinking, wait a second, there's a process going on here in my mind. You know, I basically got home from work yesterday, I was thinking about this person, or, you know, and I was thinking about how I didn't tell them, you know, how I was feeling or whatever else. And so it's like let's put it like into an analogy. Let's say you're at work and you're writing an email. And you're writing an email to a colleague who you've had a lot of conflict with, and you're just putting all the energy to it. Yeah, this is how I feel, and blah, blah, blah. I'd prefer it if you tried this next time, you know, and you're just giving them a layout of your boundaries, et cetera, et cetera. And then suddenly an alert comes up on your screen. It's a conference call, and you've got to be on that conference call in 1 minute. So you're like, oh, I really wanted to send that now, but I'm not finished. And I know that colleague of mine is going on lunch, or they're going out for the half day today, and they're not going to be back to read this. And I really wanted them to read it before they go. And now you've got to minimize that. So it's an incomplete thing, and it's minimized on the back of your computer. And now the conference call starts, and you're not fully focused on the conference call. You're not, you know, present on the here and now, because you're thinking about how this message, you wanted to send it before the colleague went out. You wanted to tell them how you were feeling. But now it's unfinished business, and that's in the background. Think about that for a lifetime. We've been doing stuff like this for a whole lifetime. We've been stuck in our anger. We've been stuck in our blame. We've been stuck in our fears, and we're never getting to a deeper level of truth. You know, we're always showing people our anger. We're never showing them our vulnerability. You know, and without that vulnerability, people themselves won't allow themselves to be vulnerable. We're all in these weak states of mind, and you know, when we're in a weak state of mind, we don't feel strong. We don't feel, you know, capable of establishing a boundary, let alone sort of maintaining one. So, you know, we all need to sort of get to a state to where we can experience our vulnerability again. Come from a place, because from vulnerability you get strength, you feel strength. It's not weakness. I think sometimes people associate weakness and vulnerability as the same thing. They're totally different things.
Not sometimes, not sometimes, Todd. That is the understanding across the field. It's only now that actually we're bringing this new understanding of vulnerability in, isn't it? Because I mean, yeah. Brené Brown is one of the she's doing great contributions to the human species around vulnerability. And like you said, it's funny that you're mentioning these key points like blame, shame, guilt, unworthiness. You know, these low frequency that you're talking about, where again most just without. It's not even a generalization. It's almost like fact. We're talking 98% of the people are, ultimately vibrating from that place.
Yeah, but what they're basically doing is, nobody's understanding. We're not understanding each other because we're all in our story most of the time. Again, we're not really showing up. We're not being self-responsible as a starting point. Therefore, we're not holding our own spaces. So as soon as we come across somebody who is feeling unsafe, or they're feeling that they don't matter, and they're expressing their, sort of feelings through aggressive behavior, or, sort of, their anger, whatever it is, their sadness. And then we start getting spun out because we feel uncomfortable being around them. It's like, what, can we not be with people and let them be how they are? It's almost like, look, we say to them, like, okay, Simon, look, Simon, look, I really need you to behave in the way I need you to behave before I can give you my love. It's that simple. Nope, sorry. You start to behave in the way I need you to behave, then I'll give you my love. And it's just like, no. I have to learn to be able to hold my own space, be self-responsible. If you're feeling uncomfortable about something and you start sort of using me, as your way to sort of as your punching bag, I have to realize that there's a process going on inside of you. Reality creation is an inside-out creation. It's not the other way around. So if I can understand that you're not really, even if I've done something that you've perceived, you've sort of read the environment, and you think, okay, Todd's just done something that has caused me to get angry. Ultimately, I'm just being used in that moment to sort of remind you of some stuff that you've got going on inside of yourself. But we keep missing that. People, we're just not seeing this stuff, that I'm not really getting angry at you in this moment. It's just you're reminding me of something that hurt me a long time ago that I've never got closure on. I've never got completion on. I've never got to a deeper truth because I kept getting stuck in my anger. I kept getting stuck in my blame. I kept getting stuck in my fears, and I never allowed myself to get to that deeper truth, whatever that truth was. And
so before you move on, before there, just stay there for a moment. So are you saying that, like, because what you're talking about again is that you're taking from self-responsibility, there comes the self-acceptance, but also you're saying what a lot happens on this journey is that everyone wants to run away from those things. So if somebody says, like, if you met somebody today, for example, like you met me, and I've done this, because I'm working at getting more into my body as well and being with my feelings. This is like a whole next stage for me, because sometimes I can be very intellectual and in the head and got the concepts and so on, right? But like if you meet somebody, so you're on the bus, you see somebody and you're feeling okay, and you meet them, they get on the bus, say, how are you? And you're like, well, it's a good question, how am I? Well, I'm feeling sad. It's like, you see people's face when you say, like, you're feeling sad, like when you say, I'm feeling angry, like, people don't even know how to respond to that. It's like, they don't even know how, like, they're like, it's not, they want to hear, like, yeah, good, all is well, yeah, fine, And it's like, the minute you say, oh, I'm feeling sad, they then think, oh, you must have a problem, how can I fix you?
How can I fix it? Yes.
And it's like, well, no, I don't need you to fix it. I'm feeling sad. That's, but I don't know. Go from there, because I know that you're not talking about suppressing them.
I've got a great example of that. I mean, I was invited to give a talk at a festival a couple of weekends ago, and we were sat in a circle. There was about 30 of us listening. They were going to listen to me speak, and they started like a round robin where everybody goes from one person to the next until they go through the circle. Just, hi, my name is such and such, and I do this. And the person started off to my right, and they went in a circle, and they finished off with me. And everybody was like, yeah, my name is such and such. I came here today from somewhere, and I'm very spiritual, and I do this, and I love this, and I'm all about love. And they got to me, and I was just like, my name is Todd, and I have some serious anger management issues. And they all start laughing, because they didn't expect that. But and they just thought maybe I was joking just to get an opening sort of laugh. And I was like, no, seriously. I have anger management issues. I'm not just a spiritual teacher. I'm a real human being. And I don't want to always wear my mask. I want to be able to be vulnerable with you, because if I can be vulnerable with you, you might actually trust the things I'm saying. And
Todd, there's power in that as well, because this anyway from the work that you do, I'm sure. But like you said earlier, a little bit into the talk, you said that we're all feeling the same pain, the same fears, the same worries, the same confusion, the same uncertainty, the same, facing our death on a day-to-day basis. So actually, when somebody like you or anybody else actually touches that place, which is so vulnerable and beautiful, there's no way that anybody else doesn't feel it. In fact, that laugh initially was probably just like, oh my God, it's like an uncontrollable laugh, isn't it? Like, oh my God, he's gone there,
I'll tell you what, the people who were hosting me for that talk, I think for a brief moment they were thinking, oh shit, this is Todd's just gone mad, and he's going to go into meltdown, and we're going to, all the people are going to leave, and it's like, calm down, it's all good, But I mean, what I'm getting at here is, if we can learn to be self-responsible again, if we can learn to, from that, sort of basis, learn to hold our space when we're then around other people, or before we're even around other people. First of all, if the story gets triggered, something comes to my head, like a work colleague, and I'm not even at work yet, and I'm thinking about this person and how they make me feel, and I start taking responsibility for that, and I actually go from that 96% unconscious behavior in a day, because I'm not just there stuck in my low quality thoughts and my low quality feelings, and therefore the emotions that come from it. I'm actually starting to think before I act, before I start to, my behavior goes before me. So I'm thinking, wait a second, and I like to use like a little state breaker. So I'll involve my inner child, because the inner child's always ready to come out, but the adult is usually far too serious for its liking. So it's better to stay in its fortress, so it doesn't get sort of yelled at by the adult version of us, the serious guy. And so I'll invite the inner child out. It knows when to come out. So if I'm suddenly about to break my state, so I'm about to get locked in my story, and I suddenly have a moment of conscious awareness where I'm like, whoa, okay, there's a habitual thought pattern, there's a habitual feeling. Catch it. Don't just fall unconscious to it and start having thoughts about my feelings and all this kind of stuff. So I'll catch it, I'll break my state, so I'll invite the inner child, comes out immediately, and I might start laughing. I use my humor. One time I went out of body, and I met an individual that eventually I found was like a guide. And one of my guides said to me, Todd, in your travels as an out-of-body explorer, as an explorer of consciousness, you'll want to have a few attributes. One attribute is to be open-minded. I was like, yeah, open-minded, yes, I'll need that. And another one was sort of to have a little bit of skepticism. And that was interesting, because one of my favorite out-of-body explorers, his name's Tom Campbell, he said the same thing in his book, and I really resonate with that. But we have to have just the right amount of skepticism, so it doesn't get in the way of our being open-minded. It can be a useful tool, but the thing that's being emphasized the most was humor. Said, Todd, when you start having these out-of-body journeys, you're going to need a lot of humor, because some of your belief systems are going to get smashed. They're going to get mangled. They're going to get twisted and be unrecognizable by the time you get back to your physical body. And when you get back to your physical body, you're going to need a different reference point. So you're going to need some humor. And I was just like, this is a great way to break states all the time. So I'm going to break my state. It's not like I'm not just going to go, oh, yeah, okay, I was just about to go into my story again. No, I want to roll on the ground and be really exaggerated and all this kind of stuff, because that's how my inner child would do it. It's just like the inner child, it wants to come out, and it wants to take part. It wants to have this complementary relationship with us. It doesn't want to struggle all the time with me. It doesn't want to, sort of have this power struggle. It wants to share the power. It wants to add its part of its power back to the whole. So we have more energy, we have more strength to do stuff instead of fighting against this inner self all the time. Because if we're fighting against the inner self, no wonder we're fighting with everybody else in our lives. So to me, it's learning how to catch this sort of unconscious behavior that's become so habituated. It's like baby steps, Simon. I'm not asking people to have the main goal in one day to catch all 200 or 300 habitual thoughts in a day. I'm talking about baby steps in order to get to that macro level. Getting to a point where maybe I catch 2 or 3 habitual thoughts in a day, and maybe those 2 or 3 habitual thoughts are enough to catch, and then do something about those things. Maybe give myself just enough space for a moment to maybe throw an affirmation at it. Maybe I'll say something like, even though part of me feels very insecure about this person or this situation or reading this book, I still allow myself to feel my strength, because I'm strong too. I'm not just weak. I can be strong. I'm loving, but I'm giving all the intensity to the hurt feelings, and this is what we usually do, and this is why we stay so unconscious. We're giving all the intensity to that stuff, and we're not redirecting the intensity to the fact that we're a loving human being, that we're a compassionate learning human being, that we're a human being that knows how to listen and to be present. We're that stuff too. We're not just our anger. We're not just our blame, but we give all the intensity constantly to that stuff.
Yeah, and why, like, from your experience, sorry to cut you short, but it's because you're sharing a lot of juice, so it's nice to like break in, because I'm always thinking about the viewers and them listening, and there's so much there, and I know some of you viewers, we've got a beautiful over 40 viewers listening in live, which is great, so for everybody out there, I just want to acknowledge you and say thank you for coming on live and being here with us now, because ultimately, you know, what is the reason for us all to be here now? So even like with these beautiful 42, 43 viewers with us today that have all made their decision at this time, like you said, they've rolled the dice, they're synchronistically, they've come together to here today to give their time, their precious time, for the intrigue, the curiosity to be with you and I this evening, you know. And you shared lovely, like it's baby steps, and obviously there's many tools out there that we can use, you know. But from your own, you know, from your own experience, Todd, do you want to talk us through like your baby steps, you know? That's because I know now you're an avid outer body explorer. You know, you're like you just said, which I'm sure people are curious. They want to know about the other dimensions, what's there, who's the people you meet, and all this other stuff, which we can go into in a little bit. But do you want to sort of just talk about those baby steps, like how you got to being so, you know, awake, like you said? And I know some of it's through outer body, but you know, it didn't just start like that. You know, I'm sure like. Did you start with affirmations? Did you start with being positive a thinker like I was? You know, do you want to just sort of talk about those baby steps?
Sure. And I want you to really get the flavor of what's going on here, because a lot of these people would have probably tuned in because, you know, you promoted the talk, you know, Todd Acamesis, out-of-body explorer. So some people would probably tuned in to hear about the out-of-body stuff. Right. But yet, and from their perspective, they're like, when's he going to talk about the out-of-body stuff? We haven't even talked about that, and that's why I've tuned in. And it was like the same with this couple this weekend that I was, you know, training for lucid dreaming. We're doing the same sort of conversation, but the thing is this: the reason people don't have lucid dreams, they practice for years, they practice for months and years, and they don't have a lucid dream. They practice for months and years, and they don't have out-of-body experiences because they've got all this power struggle going on with the inner self. Right. They've got a part of one of their personalities is like, I am shit scared about having an out-of-body experience. I can't even cope with being in physical reality. And you want me to go out of my body? Are you crazy? It's just like, of course they can't go out of body because they show up to my workshop and they say, oh, I'm not afraid to have an out-of-body experience. Yeah, maybe not the conscious version of you, but there's a shit scared little boy inside you or a little girl, you know, version inside of you, or another multiple person, one of your multiple personalities who, you know, doesn't want to have the experience because it can't even cope on this level of reality. So of course,
and you're talking, and also Todd, and also just for people, I know you and I know this, and you're talking about the unknown of the unknown. So like for example, like, you know, so for example, it's all unknown anyway, and we're pretty scared of that, right? Day in, day out, we're facing that. And then what you're offering is you're going, well, actually, forget that. Like what you said, Tom Campbell said, is that you've got to laugh because at the moment, what we're pointing to is, can you first dissolve to your built-up stories, beliefs, and ideas of your reality now, already in this so-called physical realm, and then if you're not even willing to dissolve to some of your, this is what I'm taking from what you're sharing anyway. Tell me if I'm wrong by any means. But like, if you're not willing to even dissolve to the identities that you've upheld on this realm, how the devil are you going to dive into the unknown of the next realm?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just like we're learning to be self-responsible, because for anybody out there who's tuned in because they wanted to get techniques for out-of-body experiences, I am literally giving you the cream of the crop technique right now. Sort out all these parts of you that are scared and angry and blaming and draining you of your energy, because of course you can't have an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream because you've got a power struggle going on inside of you. You can have spontaneous out-of-body experiences and lucid dreams, you know, on a frequent basis. But if you want to trigger this stuff with consciousness, just like your life, it's just like, what? You want to be a reality creation wizard? Well, guess what? You have to be fully awake on this level of reality. You have to give reality on this level, your life on this level, your full present attention. That doesn't, you know, every now and again we're going to get distracted. Everybody does. You know, there's different levels of mastery. You know, somebody tells me about the law of attraction, and I'm like, oh, the law of attraction, what's that? And then they describe it to me. I haven't suddenly mastered it just because I'm now aware of it. That's just level one. I've become aware of something. Now I have to practice it. If I'm just going to sort of, you know, it's like we can intellectually understand something, but to get good at it, we have to change our behavior. We have to get the behavior up to the level of the intellectual understanding. You know, and this is where a lot of
people, carry on. This
is where a lot of us fall down with our personal development and our spiritual development. we go out and we're like on the merry-go-round. We go out and we go to a course, and we go, and then we come home and we don't apply what we learn. We don't let the behavior catch up to the intellectual understanding. We're not practicing, and it's the consistency of the practice. You know,
Yes.
if you're being present and you're practicing, your presence is, you know, is in the practice every single day, you know, you're going to, at some point, you're going to accumulate the hours. You're going to get good at this stuff. It's literally going to be, you know, that moment will come. Bam! There's the lucid dream. There's the conscious out-of-body experience. There's the lucid living in waking life. You know, wow! I'm the practical psychologist. I'm listening to everybody as I'm talking. I'm not getting stuck in their story. I'm hearing their deeper truth underneath. I'm hearing them say, you know, when they're yelling and screaming at me because they think my behavior has triggered them, they're actually saying, I feel so unsafe, Todd. I feel so unsafe, man. I feel like I don't matter. You know, and it's just like, oh, come here, give me a hug. You know, give me a big hug. You know, this is what they need. You're right.
And that's really powerful, because you're getting the pure mirror there. Because, you know, as you're saying that, I'm reminded of an experience that's happened to me recently with separating from a partner. You know, it's like that same thing, is that you both know that you're stepping into your truth, but there's so much fear that comes up around exactly what you said, is that shit, I'm scared right now, you know, but what comes out is all this other story, and, you know, and all this, like you said earlier, blame and so on, and that is happening. I can totally see how that is happening in and day out with people's lives, and what it is I love it. I love what you're sharing, because what we're doing is what you said at the beginning. We're responding, we're reacting and responding to the noise, but that isn't it.
Yeah. No, it isn't. And you know what's really going on behind the scenes here? When people are talking to you, they're actually telling you what core needs of theirs are not being met. You know, and if they're being met, they're being met in low-quality ways. You know, all you have to do is learn to listen to somebody, and then you get to hear what needs being met. You know, for example, if I'm in the office and my boss is angry at me, he calls me into the office and says, he's giving me a royal telling off. You know what? I'm suddenly feeling very unsafe. I'm feeling like, you know, oh my God, you know, is my job at risk here? And I might lash back at him. And what's actually going on is my boss equally, he's feeling unsafe. He's feeling unimportant. Maybe he just got a tearing off from his boss. We're all walking around without our core human needs being met. And none of us are realizing this. We're getting our core human needs met in the wrong ways. We're getting attention in the wrong ways. We're yelling at people instead of getting that need met, to say, look, I need to feel that I matter to you. I need to feel important. You know, sort of getting the attention.
Todd, you just said a key word there. I need to feel. See, this is the thing that's coming up again, and because you're very much in the body and you're exploring that, you notice you're using the word feel, and this is something that's very fresh for me at the moment. Again, like I said, with where we're at, so it's no coincidence. And I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm hearing the word feel. How many people really are ready to communicate what they feel, because they're so numb, they're not able to even hear the feel, because, like you said earlier, they're in their head, right?
Yeah. Absolutely, and that's just it. And we're all running around totally unaware of you know, the fact that our own core needs are not being met, and other people's core needs are not being met. And you know, of course, we're all in the fear, in fear, like the way we are, because we just feel we're all so scared. We're all feeling so uncomfortable.
So is that like, so from your experience, like, so if we just bring that into, like, you know, which you just did, the individual, and like embracing these full aspects of ourselves, you know, what's your view on that, as like why, not that we need to know why, we pretty much know why it's there through just mass unconscious conditioning throughout their lifetime, but like where we are right now, and the fact that you do enter other realms, and you have this different perspective on reality, and you look at life and you listen more, and you're being more awake, than and I'm sure you're in a constant unfolding of that, but you're being more awake. So from that place that you're then witnessing reality, based on what you're saying, is that where we're naturally going as evolution, or is this something that, you know, we all want to, you know, be a part of and co-create?
Let me say this first, Simon, because I want people to really get
Please.
something big.
Please.
Even though I have, the knowledge that I have, okay, I know what I know, and I know what if, I've come across, I've had direct experiences, I've got certain things people would call knowledge and wisdom. But the thing is, all this stuff has basically helped me see that I'm getting stuck in certain ways. And so the difference here is, I'm still human. I'm still, what I've got all this story still. But the difference is I'm still getting stuck like everyone else, but I'm not getting stuck as long as everyone else. I'm seeing my stuff a lot quicker than maybe the average person. So I still get angry. I still yell at people. I still sort of have my tantrums. I still act like a victim. But I don't stay stuck in that stuff as long as I used to. And that's the real difference. Again, it's a different level of mastery. What level am I at? So I might be aware of my story, but that doesn't mean I now no longer have a story, that it's suddenly been healed. It means it's a process, and it takes baby steps to do this stuff. So the baby step I'm at, in order to sort of get to that goal of, sort of being a more whole human being again, I'm still getting stuck, but I'm not getting as stuck as long as I used to. So it's baby steps. I want people to understand, if they're feeling overwhelmed at the moment, it's about baby steps, Simon. Okay, that's important for people to really understand this. If you feel overwhelmed, nobody's asking you to solve and fix all your shit in one go. What we're sort of putting out there is take baby steps. That's all you need to do. Even if you're just catching one habitual pattern a day, that's one more than you caught the day before. It's all about baby steps.
Yeah, and what you said earlier as well is also putting yourself around the people that are also on that journey with you, like you called them playmates, but, putting yourself around people that can give you that mirror and are willing to pick you up and pull you. That's been the biggest thing for me. So if I didn't have my younger brother, my partner, my mum, and even other key players along the way, even Vaz is one of them, our mutual friend, and I've got Darius and Andrew and Rashid, and these are like Leslie, I can just like reel off the names of the people who are also on this journey, and then I have the opportunity to, and obviously like even this conversation now, this is even supporting me in the process where I am right now, because the last 3 days, I've been caught in, story, victimhood, I've been like walking around going, man, there's a subtle layer, man, just gripping me.
It's like a dark force, man. This dark force just grips us, and it's like, what are we to do? But there are many, many ways, and I want to go through a technique real quick, if you like.
Please, of course.
One thing, my partner, we're learning this stuff together, and this is an important thing. Growth. If we've got all these parts that are feeling very unsafe, feeling like they don't matter, and then this starts getting externalized. We feel this on the surface level. I feel like I'm not important. I feel like I'm undervalued. I feel so uncomfortable with doing this task or that task. Again, it's that power struggle because of all these parts that we've never, we've literally ignored for a lifetime. So, it's no wonder we've fallen into such an unconscious sort of state of being. So one thing I would suggest is maybe once a day, set aside some time to be really conscious, okay? So you can control a process. Right now we're all feeling overwhelmed and out of control, and even the idea of control, there can be a bit of an illusion to that, but we're going to use the word anyhow just for a moment. So like, for example, the other day, so my partner and I, we're human beings. Surprise, surprise, we argue, okay? We're both spiritual teachers, but we get stuck in our personal stories, we trigger each other, and sometimes we're not responsible, and we don't hold our personal space, and bam, my partner says something like, suddenly my hurt feelings, and I'm like feeling so hurt, and so I start yelling back, and my defensive, coping mechanisms come in, and then we get angry, and it goes, we might not talk for each other for a few hours, and it's just like, okay, so if we're not feeling safe, we're probably not, allowing ourselves to grow, in the relationship. Maybe there's not, the intimacy, or maybe for that particular day there will be lower levels of intimacy. So if we can really learn how to meet each other's needs, if we can listen to each other, be present for each other, we're hearing each other, I can actually hear, again, I'm the practical psychologist, what needs are not being met, okay? And then I can start to, do something consciously about that. So we've been regularly fighting. I hope she's not listening, by the way. We probably won't like this being announced to the globe. But we've been regularly fighting about, a couple times a week and getting really stuck in our stuff because we're learning so much new stuff, and it's like this stuff is challenging us. It's become really challenging, and we haven't integrated this new knowledge. We're just literally getting to grips with it, and it's pushing a lot of buttons. So we're arguing a lot. So it got to a point where it was out of control, and so we finally decided, let's have a controlled argument. So we sat down one afternoon, and we took the power back. We basically said, okay, we have 30 minutes to argue. Okay, 30 minutes. And so we started off, and it was like, I said to my partner, I said, yeah, I don't like it when you do this. And it's just like, it started off, it was real pants. There was no energy of an argument. There was no real upset. So we had to up the ante. So we got really angry at each other. We started throwing stuff, and the anger came, and all that stuff started coming out. And we were rolling. It was full-on argument. We were screaming, but we had control because we had 30 minutes to do it. We had a timer set, and literally within the last 5 minutes of the 30-minute controlled argument, we broke up. We literally broke up. We said, okay, I'm going this way, you go that way, screw you, we're done. And then the timer went bing, and we snapped out of it. We're like, huh, okay, well, that's the end of the argument. Are we okay? are we still in a relationship? It's just, but it was really cool because we got to set some of the parameters. We got to be sort of not feel so overwhelmed and out of control, and that this stuff was just going to pop up at any moment. We literally created a controlled, safe environment to do this.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. It was only 5 more minutes before we had our next argument, so we had a great success.
Yeah, it worked really well. You're like 5 minutes later, you're like, right, damn, God, we need another 30 minutes. But I want to just speak to that a little bit for the viewers, because what you just said again is, I'm glad that we're just breaking it down a little bit from a like you said, a baby step perspective, because you said something which I just want to speak to, which is the creating a safe environment, which is when I do and hold space for sharing circles or transparent communication, and I also want to honor your transparent communication, because these are transparent conversations that I like to create. So, and if your partner's out there, loving you for allowing the transparency. So. Is that, my friends, I have friends here on the island, Ken and Linda, and also DARA is exploring, and it brought to my attention recently anger release and shaking in a controlled environment, and really going into your anger and doing what you just said, funnily enough, Todd. It's like expressing, at first you've got to sort of fake it till you make it, like hit a pillow or get really angry and like bring up that anger and go through that. And then in a controlled environment, it can get you to what you said earlier, those deeper aspects of yourself. So you just called it like, conscious arguing or conscious, taking back the control. And I think that's ultimately something that we just haven't had as a human species, not in school, in education, not anywhere, So what you just shared is really powerful. And if anybody out there is feeling that overwhelming experience or just confusion or anger and so on, then I just wanted to speak to that and say there are people out there. Todd is obviously one of them if you're in the UK, but there are people out there that are doing work, doing processes, creating safe environments where you can enter that vulnerability and really transmute it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, there are so many great ways that we can actually do with this stuff. But what I was saying earlier was, we just have to learn to go from that 96% unconscious to sort of catching these patterns more often. Catching these patterns, even if it's just catching 2 or 3 patterns a day, this pattern behavior, this pattern thought, this pattern way of feeling, just catching that stuff more often. Even if, like I said, out of maybe 200 habitual thoughts a day, and believe me, there'll be a lot more than that. But even if you're only catching 3 of them in the beginning, that's a baby step. That might mean that instead of having 3 sort of moments of clarity, of a clearer mind, to make better decisions, to sort of spark and trigger better behavior, conscious behavior. Think about the butterfly effect and the hurricane stuff. If I just had 3 more minutes of calm every single day, what could that do to the rest of my day, the rest of my week, or somebody else's life that I have to interact with within that space of time?
Yeah,
You
what's
know,
the hurricane? What's the hurricane effect? Tell me. I haven't heard that one. I know the butterfly effect. What's the hurricane?
well, no, so I think it was just, I was just using different metaphors, but the idea that, a butterfly flaps its wings in the South Pacific and then suddenly it creates a hurricane, on the, the northern hemisphere.
Okay, yeah.
Dynamics, because we're talking about interconnected consciousness. The domino effect. One domino, suddenly, there's a whole line of other dominoes being affected by that one falling over. So, this is getting to a point of really.
And also just to throw in there, that is happening, right, Todd? It's like everything that we're interacting, and again, your experience of the different planes is that it is all interconnected, regardless of whether you fall into the whole it's all one or not. It's all, if you pull on a single thread in nature, you will realize that everything's connected, right? In some way. What's your take on that?
Well, my personal experience, it seems to show that, that is the case. I think there's many ways to see it. I mean, synchronicity is fantastic. All the synchronistic experiences I've had in my life, to where I bump into people that I've maybe just been thinking about minutes before and I haven't seen in a long time, and suddenly, wham, there that person is. I've had experiences on other levels of reality where, I've had a lucid dream and I've been told something in the dream, and then I get back in physical life, and bam, that shows up in my life straight away. Interconnected consciousness is powerful. Or maybe somebody's been angry at me and they won't talk to me and communicate with me, in an open sort of way. So I go inwards and I speak to their higher self. I speak to, their inner hurt self, and I use something like the great Ho'oponopono process, for forgiveness and reconciliation. And I just do this work behind the scenes, and then maybe within less than a week they get in touch with me, and they haven't got in touch with me for months, and they're saying nice things, and they're saying, Todd, I was thinking about you yesterday, and I just want to say I'm sorry for staying out of contact and not trusting that we can sort this out. I think there are so many ways to see interconnected consciousness all around us. It's the thing here is, if we've got so much noise once again in our head, we're not seeing the energy of this stuff that's already around us. This stuff is already there. It's like I say in my workshops, if you want to have an out-of-body experience, the energy of the out-of-body state of consciousness is already there. We live in an inclusive universe. We talk about it as being the all that is. So if it's the all that is, the out-of-body experience doesn't need to wait for you and linear time and your linear time conditioning to have an out-of-body experience. That experience is there to be experienced right now by this multidimensional self. The difference is you're stuck in your head. You're stuck in your story. You're stuck in linear time thinking that certain things have to happen before you can feel happy. It's the same sort of thing. Before I can have an out-of-body experience, I need the birds to stop chirping in my ear over here because they're distracting me. That's not being present to the practice. I'm being present to the birds outside the window. It's just like...
And actually, if you then become present to the birds out the window, you're probably more likely to have an out-of-body.
Probably so, because I'll be less inclined to be in my head. So,
right, exactly. So okay, so this, go on. If you've got something, I'm just mindful of. I mean, we could just talk for hours. I love this. I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and what you just said about connecting to people when they haven't been speaking to you, or like long distance people. That's another beautiful thing to do in meditation, and I often do that. Just send out that that forgiveness and acknowledgement to those people, and play with these things. It's one thing I want you to go into, if you're happy to, unless there's anything you want to sort of touch on. But we've got, I'd like to continue if you're happy for a little bit longer. You mentioned something about maybe opening a few hearts or cracking a few hearts based on the whole thing about love. And it wouldn't be right if I didn't ask you about love, because I'm an explorer of love, and I know that we're in a world now where love is still a loaded word, and a lot of people are throwing it around left, right, and centre. So if you feel it's nice to go into that, we can maybe spend 5 minutes or so in there, and you can break some hearts.
Absolutely. In my sort of travels out of body, I've sort of seen that, if you like, I've been able to transparently witness this energy of love and its spectrum of energy, from what we might call false love, or the human love, the emotional level of love, unconditional love. We've got all these different labels for this one energy, but it is only ever one energy that permeates all levels of reality. We just color it and filter it in different ways because of the, again, the story in our head, our belief systems of a lifetime that haven't been updated. You know, it's like people want to have the experience of love. So they have this desire, this very strong desire to have an experience of love. But their belief system, because of their past experience, is way down here. Their desire is way up here. They're totally out of alignment. So it's just like this, this value sort of conflict that's going on. So there's these old parts of them who haven't grown in a long, long time, and their experience of love is very different from the desire, you know, what they'd like to experience. Love itself is just an energy, a constant energy that permeates every level of reality, but it's because of these belief systems that we have that stand in the way of us experiencing that, which stand in the way of us sort of, you know, pushing love away from other people, or, you know, allowing ourselves to receive that love, or withholding love from other people. We're like constantly saying, because of our past experiences and feeling unsafe, feeling we don't matter, you know, these needs not being met, we're sort of constantly asking for the world to behave in a certain way before we give our love. And that love is what transforms. You know, without that love being received, without that love being given, without it being felt, you know, it's not being transformed, because we all have our personal consciousness. We all have our own, you know, sort of free will. And if I don't want to feel the energy of love, I don't have to feel it. If I want to be belligerent about it, no, I don't want to feel that stuff, you know, that mushy whatever. You know, we all have that free will to experience what is already there, or to cloud ourselves with such a level of amnesia, all these collective human belief systems and thought patterns and feeling patterns and behavior patterns, we don't get to see and experience what's already there in abundance.
Yeah. That's the key. What you've just said there is what you said a moment ago, which runs in parallels, and that's when even you hear Rumi and many other mystics talking about, it's about getting, you know, getting out of the way, getting out of the head, letting go of the blocks that have been in the way to what is already there. And funny enough, it's come up recently with the whole sexuality and the body and the breath. And actually, you know, we know all this stuff. We know how to deeply, intimately connect. And when we get out of the head, the body knows what it needs to do through the breath. But we've just put up all these blocks and beliefs and stuff in the way. So it's a similar thing. It's like you just said, everything's already here. But based on all that you spoke about this evening in the story, the noise, and all this other conditioning, that's what's blocking us, right?
Yeah. And see, love, like reality, is not a collection of our human belief systems. You know, love just is. It is what it is. You know, even if we don't fully understand it, it is not our belief systems. And that's the stuff that's getting in the way from us experiencing this stuff. And those belief systems, those core fears, you know, those core beliefs, those core fears, the fear that we have because of our conditioning of a lifetime. You know, you look at your mother and your father, your main role models as children. What were they like? You know, because they were your role models. Now, this conscious version of you that's only conscious 4% of the day, that's the role model for all these other multiple personalities. You know, these parts are looking to you to show it the way. You know, they don't know how to take responsibility for themselves anymore. This is why that power struggle is going on. And they look to the external, they look to that part of you, like the surface-facing Simon, and they're like, I don't trust you, Simon. I'm not going to give you this energy. There's going to be a power struggle. I don't trust you. You say you're going to do this, and your behavior doesn't match that. You know, you tell us one thing and your behavior is something else. So these personalities, they don't trust you. And again, it's that power struggle, and it's learning to remember that these parts of you, these genuine parts of you, are hurting, and they've been hurting for so long. You might have been growing in one way. One personality has experienced a lot of growth. You know, like spiritually. I've been growing spiritually for a long time. But have I been growing in a relationship kind of way? This is why I've had, you know, a lot of past hurts and past relationships. I haven't gone on relationship development courses. I haven't valued that part of my development. So of course I've been so dysfunctional in my bloody relationships, because here I am out here sort of, you know, growing in other ways, but I'm not getting balanced. I'm not sort of where you know, really being able to apply, you know, in my personal, you know, intimate relationships. And I'm, you know, it's just like, God, this is crazy.
Yeah. So no, but it's wonderful. So, you know, again, it's like, but by you having the awareness of what you've now had, I'm in exactly the same place. It's like you can be growing in one area, but I like what you're saying. It sounds like we're totally crazy on one level, but I like that in the sense of that we're not, you know, that we're not listening to these other aspects of that are blocking the energy. These other aspects of ourselves. So
look at it this way, Simon.
Go
look
on.
at it this way. This is going to be a great illustration. So everybody come forward, close to the screen, so you don't miss any of this. Okay. So there was a psychologist back in the 19. Hold on. Sorry.
Bless you, bless you.
There was a psychologist, Dr. Bennett, back in the 70s, and he wrote a book called Multiple Personalities Disorder. There was something else to the title that I can't remember. But one of his case studies, he had a young boy aged 10 years old. And when one personality was clearly showing, it was very prominent, this little boy, if he drank orange juice, it would be like a nut allergy reaction. You know, really full-on nut allergy type reaction. Whenever another one of the personalities were showing, and that was the present one, he could drink the orange juice and nothing physically would happen to his body. Nothing. Wow. It goes to show how belief systems literally do create every nuance of our reality. So if somebody has a sort of a misbelief about love, and that's one personality, you know, and there's that other personality that might have another belief about love. You know, whenever one of those personalities are being dominant, that's the belief system that's showing, and that's the reality that's being created. So it's a matter of learning to get these different personalities working in harmony, having a synergy and a complementary relationship where everybody's allowed to show up. All those parts of you are allowed to show up, because if all those parts were showing up, you would feel like you had so much more energy, like you had more strength, more power, because you would, because it's greater. There's a greater level of unification. At the moment, you know, all this stuff is just, all these different parts of you, they're just struggling with each other, struggling with their different levels of growth. One level has grown to a point, the other level stopped growing 20 years ago and hasn't grown since. It's just sort of created a fortress for itself with tripwires, with hand grenades, fields of landmines, and every time you go to sort of grow in one way, this bit kicks off and tries to distract you because it's upset that it can't join in. You know?
Yeah. So what we're playing with at the moment is we're talking about the fragmented selves, and like you said earlier, I want to just say, I know we're coming to a close, but just again to give that breakdown and clarification just for the people listening, you know, just a little sort of summaries. It's like, you know, Todd's been talking about baby steps. And what I've noticed with the people on this path, and I know Todd has because he's mentioned it this evening as well, is that we might dabble, we might read one book on law of attraction, as Todd said, or whatever it is. We might even read one book on lucid dreaming, or, you know, we get a sense that we want to explore these areas, but we're never willing to put the full discipline into, like, or the repetition into getting up at whatever the time is, 5 in the morning, 7 in the morning, getting on the mat in the morning and doing your yoga, you know, continually connecting with other people that are in your field. So what happens is you end up putting yourself in even more of a confused place, because you're getting a sample of something that could potentially integrate you more, but you're not sticking with it. You know, it's the same with yoga. I've been doing yoga recently, and I'm on like day 50 today, like day 50 in a row. And I set mini goals along the way, not because I want to be like a control freak, but I want to really know what it feels like to, like, bring, you know, experience yoga, not just through the physical aspect, but through the actual breathing and what it can bring to my life. And you know, the stuff it brings up, the resistance that tries to come in and block you from this stuff, you know, and it's like, it's not until you go through these comfort zones, through this resistance, that you actually reap the rewards. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, but see, this is just it. I think one of the questions we have to ask ourselves most is, you know, when we commit to doing something, or we're about to commit to do something, or we're in two minds about doing something, what is the cost of not taking the time? What is the cost of not taking an action? What is the cost of not being consistent? You know, and then look at it on the other side. What is the reward? What is the payback of doing something? You know, we hear in spirituality, especially, all the time, you know, this issue with money. You know, money is such a dirty thing. It's, you know, so much lack mentality around it. You know, this poverty consciousness around it. It's like, you know, sometimes people will send me an email and say, "Oh, Todd, you know, your workshop is too expensive. You shouldn't be charging for your spiritual knowledge." And say, you know what? I value myself. I'm charging for my time. I'm charging for, you know, my personal experiences. I value myself from this side of the fence. What they need to learn how to do is value themselves from their side. If something has a price tag, what's the flip side? What's the payback? If there's the cost for something, what's the reward for that? You know, and we have to look at our whole lives this way. If we've stopped growing, And this is why we stop growing, what I'm going to say next. We don't grow and we don't consistently grow because we feel so unsafe. We feel so, unworthy. We feel I'm not good enough. And it's this stuff that's not getting the attention. So therefore, we don't grow because we don't have the energy to grow, because all these ways that we feel are holding us back and we're not being consistent. But what is the deep question here? What is the cost of not looking at this stuff and really considering what's actually going on? Reality creation is an inside-out creation. If you want to move from point A to point B, take baby steps. If you feel overwhelmed, take baby steps. Nobody's asking you to do this stuff overnight. But what is the cost of doing nothing?
I think that's a wonderful place to close. I mean, I don't want to close. I don't want to close, but I feel that beautiful viewers have stayed with us, and I know we could just continue. I'm like, yeah, I just think that was a really lovely place. Reality creation comes from the inside out, and I mean, there's so much juice there in what we've shared, and as always, for anybody watching, you go off into one aspect of what Todd shared or what I've mentioned, and you can explore that and ask the questions. I mean, what I've really taken from tonight is just that whole, come back to doing the work for yourself. Just you're worth it. It's like you are worth it. You are one unique manifestation of like no other being is ever going to be created like you, no matter what that we know of in the universe as it unfolds. It's like you are worth doing this work. I mean, I get up like Todd. I'm so happy that Todd shared so transparently, which I knew he would, but like he just said, he's doing this stuff, sharing this stuff, he's got into a certain space, and still he's challenged. And I'm the same. This is like 6 years self-responsibility so far, 7 years that I made a decision to go, right, I'm going to do this work. And it is not stopping, It's like these conversations, I continue them purely for that reason. I've benefited so much from this conversation. It's like made me look at myself. I've even felt throughout the talk, my energy field rising, It's just like, wow, It's like just to look at things from the way that Todd's pointed out. So yeah, I feel really just really pumped up, and for me this is all about how we evolve for the next generations as well, because if we are now the role models, we are the real life heroes, we are the playmates, we're the superheroes of this story or the new story or even moving beyond the story. I mean that for me that gives me reason to to contribute. Do you want to sort of throw in a last sentence on that, Todd, and we'll say goodnight?
Yes, my closing sort of line, if you like, is, trust yourself, trust that, that intuition. And this is the thing for a lot of us. People say, how do I differentiate between my intuition and my ego? This is challenging stuff for all of us. Again, that ego is all those different parts, all those different parts in conflict. But that intuition is there. It's just like what they say in science, the signal to noise ratio. When you start communicating with these parts of you by literally taking a moment, you say, I'll take half an hour every day to quiet my mind and let any one of these parts come forward and say something. I'm not going to prejudge what they're going to say. I'm not going to try and guess. I'm going to let them come forward. And when they do, I will hold the space. I will allow myself to stay out of the further story and just hear what that part has to say. I will give it my love. I will show up. I will be fully present so it trusts me more and more every day. And when that starts to happen, your life will change. You can approach things in a more playful way. You can have more fun. You don't need to be so serious all the time. You will start to shift, but it's baby steps. Trust it's baby steps. If someone says to you right now, you're beautiful and you're feeling ugly, you are not going to believe them, because that's not matching up to your story, and your story hasn't just changed just because they say you're beautiful. You're not allowing yourself to experience the reality beyond your own projection. It's baby steps. Take your time.
Let's breathe that one in.
I love you, Simon.
I got a lot of love for you, Todd. A lot of love. Really, really love the conversation. Thank you so much for saying yes and sharing it. And yeah, I mean that last bit you did. I want to just cut that, edit that little bit, and we can have that out there as well, because that's a beautiful summary.
Fantastic. It's been a real pleasure, Simon. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, pleasure, 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 and I hope to see you on one of the planes sometime, and we can get a physical hug, or unless I catch you on another dimension somewhere.
My pleasure, brother. I'm always there.
So yeah, as always, for everybody watching, the links will be under the video. Subscribe to my channel, Todd's channel. There's some video. There'll be links to his website, and if you want to explore more of his work and what he's doing and just being, you know, there's videos on YouTube, and you can look at his website, journeyoftruth.co.uk, right, Todd?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. Thank you, live viewers. You're still there. You stuck with us. You came on the whole journey with us. And for all of those on the replay, I hope you've thoroughly enjoyed this as much as we have. Todd's on a boat. I'm in a kitchen. We're on a planet. And there's one thing. We love ourselves, and we love you, and we don't need you to give us permission. Take care, Todd.
Oh.